warm welcome to an exciting interview. I've got with us the beautiful Annie Oliverio. Annie is a food blogger. She is the author of a blog called An Unrefined Vegan, and that's where I first met Annie. Probably in 2011, I think it might have been, and we had conversations, and we swapped recipes, and Annie kindly invited me to be part of her blog tours and blog events, food blogging events, and it was a whole heap of fun. And I'm so excited for her now because she's just released her first cookbook, which is called Crave, Eat, Heal: Plant-Based Whole Food Recipes to Satisfy Every Appetite. And I just wanted to welcome you, Annie. Welcome.
Hi, thanks, Bex. So good to see you.
So good to have you here. And many of my business clients had been asking when I was talking about you, how did she do this? How did she create her own cookbook? And I said, well, let's ask her. And I thought it would be so exciting to hear a bit behind the scenes into the process of how you actually go about creating a cookbook. So where did the whole thing begin? Where did the inspiration come from? Was this always your dream?
Well, this will probably disappoint you just a little bit, but when you write a blog and you do it for a couple years, as we both have, the idea, and you often get asked, well, are you going to write a cookbook? When's your cookbook coming out? And that actually was never a dream of mine. But I got an email one day from a publisher who asked if I would be interested in writing a cookbook for them. And after determining it wasn't a joke or spam, I decided, what the heck, it's a new experience, and let's see what I can come up with. They gave me kind of an idea of what they wanted to see, and I went from there. And they kind of gave me complete freedom to create what I wanted, which was wonderful.
Oh, very exciting. Fantastic. And so how did you come up with the concept then? Because I love this. It's sort of giving people healthier options for the things that they crave, whether that's salty, sweet, and so on.
Right. Well, their idea for me was to write a cookbook about healing foods. And I didn't feel that I had the background to do that. I wasn't comfortable telling people what they should eat to heal illnesses or to feel healthier in a way that was healing. That's a little complicated. But so what I decided to do instead was to take a personal approach, which was, like a lot of people, and maybe especially women, I have cravings. And, sometimes I've got to have something sweet or I've got to have something salty. And I realized as I was making my own transition to veganism that a lot of those cravings were really related to emotional issues, or I was angry, or I was bored, or I was lonely. And how could I satisfy those cravings without eating something that I was going to regret later, which just makes the whole, it just makes it all worse. Mm-hmm. So that's the approach that I took with the book. How do I identified cravings. I can't remember how many, 13, 14, I don't know. It's been so long. And so I identified the cravings, and I just wrote recipes to kind of satisfy those cravings in a whole food way with limited oil, no refined sugar, in many cases gluten-free. So that's the concept of the book.
And I love that so much, because we do all have those cravings, and I see that so much in my health coaching clients as well, that so often it comes from an emotion. So to be able to satisfy that, make your body feel good, and to satisfy that craving in a healthy way is so important. Love it. Love that concept. And so how did you go about the creative process? Because obviously, I know nothing about how you go about creating a cookbook. Do you write down what you think you might work on? Do you start playing with some recipes?
Yes. Yes to both. Well, one of the first things that you have to do, and even though a publisher approached me, just for your listeners' edification, you still have to submit a proposal. And that proposal can be accepted or rejected. So it's not a free ticket to a cookbook. And the proposal process is that you usually have to give them a chapter or two. Now, they may not actually end up in the book, but you have to provide recipe titles and some other basic information to give them an idea of what this book may look like. And that process is really helpful for me because I wrote the introduction for them, and in the introduction, I really worked out what I wanted to do with the book. And the introduction is a lot about my personal journey with food, from eating junk and crap, pardon my French, to eating a plant-based whole foods diet. Beyond that, once I had identified the cravings, it was really, I don't want to say easy because it wasn't easy, but that at least gave me the inspiration to start creating recipes. And I found some wonderful anonymous people to test my recipes and give me feedback. So that was really an important part of the process, because something that I think might be wonderful, 10 other people might say, maybe not go with that one. So that's really how the process went. Just writing a lot of recipes, eating a lot of food, making my husband eat a lot of food, and narrowing down, what worked and what didn't. So.
Absolutely. Because I remember that you had a bit of a shout out on your blog for your blog readers, and invited some of them to come and be recipe testers for you as well.
Right.
And so did they just sort of like test them at home and then give you feedback, and you just sort of filtered through that?
Yes. I created a private website, and I just posted the recipes there. And so people could test them at their leisure and leave comments. And it worked out pretty well because I could post as I was developing them. And I got great feedback. Some of the recipe testers are just incredible. I mean, the detail, and they tried every recipe, and gave me really great feedback because, you create your own recipes, and your own meals. Sometimes something that's perfectly wonderful for you and your family is maybe not ready for prime time. And they're honest, and that's exactly what you need. You need brutal honesty. I mean, I had a couple that hurt, but I would rather lose a recipe there than get have it end up in the cookbook and somebody be unhappy. It'll probably happen anyway, but at least I know that I put out my best recipe and my best product.
So important, isn't it? Because I have had that happen. I've put them on the blog before and gotten a few like nasty comments, and I'm like, oh, okay. I thought it was yummy.
Yeah, it was great for me. Sorry. I know you want to put a disclaimer on every recipe, I liked it. You may not.
Depends on your taste buds.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
but it's an ego thing, though, right?
It hurts because you put your heart and soul into creating these things, and so if people, sort of don't like it, then you feel, it does hurt. It does. It is upsetting. Yeah. But I love that idea that you created another website and got them to comment, because I imagine that keeps it nice and neat and tidy for you. Because I was wondering like how you would do that, whether they each send you separate emails on recipes. I thought, how would you even collate all of that information?
That would be crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how other people do it. I actually picked that up from Kathy Hester, who's another cookbook author. And it's such a great idea because, as you say, it keeps it organized. People know where to go to leave the comment. And then you can take your time. You don't have to answer. You're spending your time going back and forth with emails. It's in one place. And, it worked out really well. And, I could also post. Occasionally I'd post a photo so that they could see what it might look like. And, it was just a great way to do it.
Yeah, fantastic. And so would that just be like a quick snapshot of, like, not a professional photo, but just a quick snapshot to make it easy for yourself while you're testing them out?
Yeah, I would just take something that, not the photos that ended up in the book, but just, as I made it, here's a close proximity. If you get close to that picture,
we're doing good. Yeah, an artist's impression.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
I love it. Yeah, and then you can read the comments, and I'm sure then they sort of helped each other as well. Like, some of it creates community too, right? All of the recipe testers can see each other's comments. Right. Love that. Yeah. And then how did you go with deadlines and things like that from the publisher, like publisher expectations? Do they give you certain, do you have to provide certain material along the way? Are there milestones?
Not in my case. There was a deadline that I was working towards, and so I knew that, I had to have everything done on a certain day. But I did give them things because that's just my nature. I like to do stuff ahead of, before deadlines.
Hmm.
So I would provide them with things before. I didn't get all the photos to them at one time, for instance, that kind of thing. I think that it's probably publishers are different. So my experience is probably, it may be common, but they are all different. I've worked with other publishers for food photography, and those are kind of different deadlines and commitments there. But for this, it was kind of okay. If you get everything done by X, we're good.
Hmm.
And then the waiting really begins. So yeah, it's a long process.
Yes, I can imagine. It's a lot of work pulling it all together and creating it all and then sending it off and the waiting time as well. I imagine
Yeah,
is
doing whatever they do with it.
on
Do
the
what you're
best
doing.
side.
So,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. And so what happens then? So when the cooking's done and the kitchen's been cleaned up and the recipe
Clean.
testers have been thanked. So then because I saw that it's currently on pre-sale on Amazon, which is super exciting. And then so the publisher sort of does their side, and then you're waiting. Is there I know that you blogged about it as well. Is there any other expectations of you during that period?
Yeah, sort of. So you submit the manuscript and the photos, and then in my case, there was just one back and forth. And again, this is probably publisher specific. I know some publishers are very, very picky, and you might get a manuscript back several times. But they sent me back sort of the finished draft, which included the photos and the text. So it looked like a finished product, and they just wanted me to go through it and find typos, that kind of thing, change anything that I needed to change. They didn't ask for any major rewrites, which I was very pleased with. But that can happen. They may not like the way something is written. So there could be a couple of rewrites in between there. And then they do the final document that goes to the printer. And that's where my book is right now. It's in China getting printed.
International.
Yeah, it's really getting printed in China, which just blows my mind because, then it's got to be shipped back. So, yeah, so I'm just waiting for it to kind of become real and get shipped out. It's supposed to get out in May 4th. That's what they're telling me. So we're getting there. It's been slow, but really that time between me saying this looks good and it being printed, there's really nothing's going on.
Yeah, yeah. And then, does a publisher organize a book tour for you, or you sort of, these days it's kind of, it seems to be more like you're sort of doing your own promotions and things?
Yeah. Again, I keep saying it, but it sort of depends on the publisher. In this case, my publisher, they help me organize a book tour, but I'm really the driver. And the reason that is because I wanted to use my connections in the vegan world. I've managed to meet so many wonderful people like yourself. And so I really wanted, and I'm a control freak, let's just be honest. So yeah, I'm organizing the tour. They're kind of backing me up. They might do a little bit of publicity for it. But really, and this is literally in my contract, 80% of the promotion is up to me, and 20% is up to them. So they really do very little. So if any of your listeners are thinking about doing a cookbook, keep that in mind. It's not simply I write the cookbook and they go out and sell it. You really have to sell it yourself. So
I kind of like that. Because I have been to a few to see a few authors who have done their book tours, of bloggers that I admired, and I kind of like it because it does have that personal touch, because it's no longer, the establishment is sending you out to do all these things. It's kind of like the person is organizing the tours themselves, and maybe that's because I'm a bit of a control freak as well, but I always think that's quite cool that you get to run the show yourself. Even though it's more work, you get to be in the driver's seat.
It is, but I think, and you can probably appreciate it. That way you kind of know any of the mistakes that are made are yours, but you also know what's happening. I like to thank the people who are part of the tour. I read the posts, I send them an email, and that just makes it. I've always been impressed with cookbook authors when I've done cookbook reviews who've contacted me personally and said, hey, thanks a lot. You put a lot of time in that. So I think that's a really important part of being part of your own book tour, is that you want to be personal.
Yeah, absolutely. That personal touch. And that's something we've been talking about actually lately in the mastermind was, when someone admires someone, if they've been watching them for a long time, like people will be looking at you and thinking, wow, this is so exciting. And then they do a review and for you to go over and then comment on it just makes their day, so exciting for them. So yeah, absolutely. Just adds that personal touch and gives that community feel.
Right. Exactly.
I love that. Yeah. And I love what you did with, inviting many food bloggers to be part of the book as well. Obviously I was tickled pink when you asked me to contribute a recipe and so many of the other ones as well. So now I see that you're doing an online blog tour of the contributors, which is so fantastic. So, how did that idea come to pass? Because I haven't seen a lot of others do that.
To invite other people to have a recipe? Is that yeah. Well, I just think it's a nice way to say thank you to the people in my community. And like you, I think we met. I know I was just starting to blog when I found out about you. So I just feel like, hey, we all sort of support each other, and we're all happy to see each other succeed. And it was just my way of saying thank you, and hey, I admire what you do. So that was it. It was like, hey, I'm writing a cookbook. Where are my friends?
I love that, because then you do have that support and that camaraderie, and I'm sure so much more excitement. People feel like they're part of it as well, which is even more exciting when they want to promote it. I mean, I've been singing it from the rooftops because I think it's so exciting. So I just love that. And it's quite funny as well, there's been several bloggers, right, that we all met when we first started who have put out their own cookbooks as well. And recently, my mum bought me one from Cara Reed the other day, and I was like, I know her. I talked to her on the...
Isn't that crazy?
It's so bizarre. I love it. And Christy Turner as well.
It's like this explosion of like everybody I know in the blogging world has a cookbook. I'm like, whoa, that's just weird. I mean, it's great, but it's just so weird.
It's so amazing and so exciting. So I love that you had that sort of contributors, and now that they are all promoting it and they can all help with the tour, and just I think gives that beautiful party feel, which I'm always all about as well. Having a whole lot of fun with it.
Let's sell some books.
Let's have some fun with this. Let's spread the vegan message. I love it. And so what were your biggest lessons then? Like, if you could tell your younger self, or to anyone who's watching, about some of the biggest lessons, or maybe even just one that springs to mind.
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind is it's consuming. You have to be prepared to be consumed by the process. I mean, even your sleep will be affected. But and the other thing is, I think, is don't discount self-publishing. Don't wait for a publisher. If your dream is to write a cookbook, do it. And there's just great ways to do it yourself. You can take the photos, you can do the artwork, you can set it up, you can put it on Amazon, and you can print on demand. I mean, it's if you're a control freak like we are, that's a great way to do it. And it's a wonderful experience, even if you go on to work with a publisher, to be able to say, hey, I understand the process, and yeah, it makes you a little bit more ready. So those are the two things that I would throw out there.
I love that. Yeah, because it's in a very exciting time to be alive, really, with having all of this technology at our disposal, being able to self-publish, being able to
Right.
create whatever you want to create and put it out there. I mean, years ago
Right.
that option didn't exist. So yeah, definitely
Right.
taking advantage of that. And then yeah, of course, you have to be a little bit obsessed to take on a project like this, right? So
Yeah.
when you first started work on the book until you submitted it to the publisher, how long is that?
They gave me 6 months
Right.
from start to finish.
Yeah.
So
So it's
yeah,
not.
it's and it sounds like a long time, but it goes really fast.
I bet.
Um, Especially in my case, I took the photos as well. So I was writing, creating the recipes, and I was taking the photos. So that's one, it's part of the reason it is all consuming. If somebody else is taking the photos, it's a little different, but 6 months goes really fast.
There's a lot of tasks in there, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's that, and as we were talking about before, it's so important, isn't it? Then you're doing that, you're obsessed with a process, you do the hustle, and then to take downtime and to rest
Yes.
and have
Yes.
bring a little bit of balance back. Maybe just it's just like a season rather than a rest every weekend. You probably haven't had weekends for a while.
Right. One of the things that I was so happy about when I finished writing the recipes was making other people's food, other people's recipes. I'd open up a cookbook and be like, oh, I can make this. It's not mine. I was so tired of my own food. Yeah. So that was like a downtime, right?
Oh gosh, yes, yes. Because when you're making your own recipes as well, I mean, I don't know what your process is like. With me, like I make a big old mess. I've got the pen and paper there where I'm trying to write down what
Oh,
I've just
yes.
thrown in the pot, and
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
so I can imagine.
I have stacks of these little notes that are just, yeah, it's a mess. Yeah.
I love it. So to be able to make someone else's recipe and not have to write anything down is just
Yes.
bliss, right?
Right. Yeah. It's sort of, I was sort of going, how do I do this? I haven't done somebody else's recipe in so long. What do I do? Yeah. And by the way, you do gain weight.
Oh
You
yeah,
do gain,
another important
that's
lesson.
another one.
Of course, because you've got less time to exercise and you've got to eat more.
Right.
You've got to get through
You
more
gotta eat it
food.
all. Yeah.
Or maybe the neighbours will get very lucky with potlucks
Yeah.
and things.
Or not. They're like, whew, don't put that one
Yeah.
in your book.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for giving us a behind the scenes peek into the world of cookbook publishing. It's so
Crazy.
exciting.
Thank you. Thanks so much for inviting me. It was a lot of fun. I was looking forward to it.
Thanks so much, Annie.